Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay. Today, Wednesday, June 17th, 2026. It's an early one. It's 8:50 in the morning for me. Mountain time. Mountain time in the mountains in Colorado. Well, I'm not really in the mountains. I'm in the desert of Colorado, but they call it mountain time here in the States. And I'm going to continue on this painting. And what I want to talk about today, I'm going to get right into it because honestly, I'm not feeling well this morning. I don't know what happened. I slept well, but I just don't feel well. And I want to talk to you, and hopefully some people watch this. Hopefully it helps in some way. But this kind of topic where we're going to talk about personal development is probably the best way, self-help, probably the best way to describe this. I find it to be the most important thing about, any practice that you have, whether it be art or sports or writing or whatever. Getting to the work, no matter what, is tremendously important within reason, right? Within reason. And I want to share a lot of practical tips that I've built up over the past 13 or so years of doing this, 13 plus years. So I've been doing art every single day. And this is the reason why I'm talking about this, is because you can say, well, if you don't feel like it, just don't do it, right? And that's totally fine. But for me, I have set this idea for myself that I'm doing art every single day for the rest of my life. And we'll talk about how to do that, okay? Building an unbreakable, unbeatable, unrelenting habit. Inevitable, glacial. Yeah, that's what we want to do. Because if we can do this on our worst days, when we don't feel like it, it's pretty easy. So I woke up this morning, I got my exercise in and everything, but, probably 10, 15, 20 minutes ago, I was like, okay, I'm just not feeling well. Just kind of blah, low energy, a little bit nauseous in some ways, maybe a little hypoglycemic. I got a little bit to eat, had my coffee. I'm drinking some tea right now. Relaxing, breathing, but things are not working so well. So I stopped what I was doing because I was working on the Painter's Path, some new videos that I'm creating for the Painter's Path on my website. And I was like, okay, I don't feel well. So the very first thing I need to do, what I really need to do, is get to my artwork first before my energy gets worse. Okay. Before things go downhill even further, because, and this is a very practical thing, because we're most energized after we wake up, after a good night of sleep. Hopefully it's a good night of sleep. Even if it's not a good night of sleep, at least there was some sleep. And that's when we have our most energy. And then as we go throughout the day, this makes sense, right? As we go throughout the day, that energy starts to be depleted. This is pretty darn dry already. So because I'm not feeling well, because I'm just kind of, I don't know, a little blah this morning, I'm thinking, okay, I need to get to it right now when my energy is highest. So there's this understanding that I have, and I built this up over years, 13 plus years of doing this, where I know when I feel this way that the best thing I can do is just get to my artwork as quick as possible and get it done. Because not only because it's my artwork, but it's my most important thing that I need to do throughout the day. And that may be different for you, right? If you have children, probably the most important thing to do is to get them ready for the day, to take care of them in some way. and to, think about them first. So that's the very first thing that you do in your morning, whether you have, good energy or you're not feeling well or whatever, you got to get to them. So that's the first thing, is really understanding your body, understanding where you're at within your body, how you feel, and then planning your most important thing through that. Like I said before, this is one of those topics. I mean, artists don't want to hear this. People in general don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear Chris Bevan telling them how to, run their life that would be better. Or maybe people do. I don't know, but I'm going to share it regardless because I'm going to say not that I think it's the most important, but I know it's the most important thing. And I've said this so many times. We could have, our best materials, the best brushes, the best studio. We could have the best ideas for oil painting that if we do it, it's going to take off and we're going to be the most successful artist on the planet. We could have all these things going for us, right? But if we don't get to it, if we don't actually, put paint to canvas, we don't show up and do what we need to do, it will amount to nothing. All those materials will sit there and collect dust and nothing will come of it. So that's why it's so important to, build this habit, to build this continual effort that we have to get to things, to push past not feeling like it some days within reason, right? And I'll talk about some other tools to work with that. And to have the discipline. Yeah, it's a word that people don't want to hear when they're talking about artwork. I just do this for a hobby and I don't need discipline in it. Okay, that's fine too. Continue your hobby. That's fine. But for me, it's more serious than that. So hopefully, for the more serious of the artists out there, this is helpful. And if it's not helpful for you, then you can listen along. Maybe there's a couple things that will be helpful. So the other thing that I've talked about a ton incessantly, Chris keeps going on and on about this, is a daily art minimum. And this is probably the most practical thing that I've done that allows me to show up every single day and to battle the I don't feel like it, where you're perfectly fine. It's just you'd rather play your video game. That's, I do that sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'd just rather play Guild Wars 2, have some fun there, and just have a fun day. And I don't want to have to do my artwork, right? I just don't feel like it today. Where we battle the don't feel like it's, where we battle the I'm sick, where we battle the I don't have enough time thing, is within a minimum, where you set this minimum for yourself, where you say, hey, I set 30 minutes a day. And this is me. I've set the 30 minutes a day. And I feel like that I could get to 30 minutes a day no matter what. And I've been able to do that for how many days? 4,891 days. I keep track of it. I'm crazy like that. So if we set this minimum and we be practical about it, and we think about the possible worst day that we're ever going to have, like in the hospital, in a hospital bed, we think, oh, what can I do in that situation? One second, I got to take my medication. What could we do on that day? And over 13 years ago, I thought about that. Okay, well, what if I'm on a plane? I have to get up at like 3 a.m, catch a plane. How am I going to get my artwork done on that day? Well, one thing's for sure, I'm definitely not going to be doing a full painting on that day. I'm not going to complete a painting. So what can I do? and there's this removal of constant talk about, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would say, can't, never, could, do nothing. Still a very esoteric kind of statement. Can't, never, could, do nothing. It sounds like what's that author? Silverstein, the children's book author. Sounds like something Silverstein would say. Can't, never, could, do nothing. And maybe my dad got it from there. I'm not sure, but it's true. I think the more like modern version of that is maybe Henry Ford or someone else said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Meaning we are the ones that set our own possibilities, our own track in life. So if we're sitting there and we're going, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, you're right. Of course you can't do it. You're not even trying. You're just like, you're focusing on the negatives, right? And that's so easy to do. Much of my life, I've done that. So, the only reason why I'm talking to anyone about this stuff is because I've screwed up so much in the wrong ways that I've figured out some ways for me that I think works well. So it isn't like I'm this person on a big pedestal that is talking down to anybody. No, that's not it at all. I'm the worst at this. So I had to put all these things in place so that I could be better about it and think about it. But if we have these minimums, so we're talking about minimums, first thing was understanding your energy, where your energy level is at right now, and then planning accordingly, putting your art time earlier in the morning. That's when we have the most energy, right? Getting it done and then relaxing through the rest of the day. Now, setting a minimum, you're practically thinking about your day, thinking about how much time you have throughout the day, what you can actually get to, so we're not burning out or anything like that. And you set a minimum that you can achieve throughout, the rest of your life, hopefully, with this wonderful art thing. Oh, geez. Sorry, just not feeling well this morning. Trying to focus on this painting as well. Just, I'm not thinking about the entirety of the painting and all that I want to do with it. I'm simplifying my idea of the painting right now because my brain is a bit off. I know, not feeling well. Your brain is not going to be working very well. So don't, put all this weight upon yourself and think, Chris, you need to, every stroke needs to be perfect. You need to put down and make this amazing painting every time you sit down. You need to make a painting every time you sit down. You need to, accomplish something huge every time we come to the easel, or else it's not worth it. So that's the next thing, is relaxing all of the expectations away from this and just paint. Just have some fun with it. Understand, have some empathy for yourself, for, how much ever energy you have. I'm focusing down on little parts, making small steps here, and thinking, you know what? I'm not going to make a big step today. It's not going to be this big, huge thing. I'm not going to, make the painting that everybody around the planet is going to want to buy. But I can make a small step in the direction of completion of this painting. And I think that is a mindset that we can take on for every day. We can say, you know what? My goal today is just to have some fun, putting paint to canvas, um, removing all that expectation, breathing out, relaxing, and just getting something done, taking a positive step forward. Hey, Boofhead. Like 5 minutes after I sit down to start, all the energy leaves my body and it feels like horrible to keep going. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I can see that. I think that's really interesting. That's the first time I've heard someone kind of say that. Usually for me, when I'm not feeling well, when things aren't going well and don't, it's usually physical and or mental. Like we have mental things going on, like a million things going on in our brain. It could be I remember when I was taking care of our cats and um it was close to the end of their lives. And so it was kind of a hospice in our home for our cats because, they were having a lot of trouble. So it was hard to get to anything. It was like trying to push a boulder up a hill because of that mental energy that I was constantly expressing, to, um, our loved ones, right? Like you could have a fight with your loved one and things are just kind of off kilter. You're not feeling right. It's just like, oh, things are just not going well today. And those are the days when we need to have a little empathy. We look inwards. Okay. We recognize this. We say, okay, this is what's happening. It's okay. This is life. These things will happen. They will pass eventually. Now, what can I do right now where I can turn around all this stuff that I'm feeling into something a bit more positive, right? Where I can make one small motion forward in a more positive way of we feel like, and it's terribly hard. Like this is not easy. Okay, this is like some of the hardest things that we'll ever deal with in our life is just going, I do not feel like this, but I'm going to make that step anyways. And it takes discipline. It takes a push to do that where you're like, okay, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to remove all of this expectation of having to make something beautiful. And I'm going to stick with the minimum that I set 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes for me, 30 minutes every day. And I'm going to make a step forward. And those are the most important days for us. The most important days are these hard days. And you may be saying, what are you talking about? Those are the worst days. How are these the most important days? If we can get to our practice, right? The thing that we set for ourselves, and it doesn't have to be artwork, it could be almost anything. The things that we set for ourselves that we've said we're going to do, regardless of what's going on, or along with what's going on, like not battling against it, but accepting it and then moving forward because of it. If we can do that, it does make harder days in the future easier. I remember, in August 2018, well, probably, 6 months to a year before that, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, end stage kidney disease, super healthy kidney disease, right? And talk about turmoil in your life, right? I never expected this, even when I set my daily art minimum. So mental and physical turmoil all at once, right? And I think the hardest time through that was the actual, because, luckily I got a friend of ours that was willing to give me their kidney, which is fantastic. And the hardest part was having to move to a new place close to the hospital. We were in like a hotel room, not a good hotel, because we had to stay there for a month. So we're looking for something inexpensive. So away from my kitty cats, away from home, in a hotel room, and had to wake up at like 3 in the morning because surgery was at like 5 or 6 a.m. It was really early in the morning. And I was like, if I don't get my artwork done right now, I'll miss a day. So I woke up a little bit earlier, did everything I needed to do, prepare for surgery, and then did a 30-minute sketch. It wasn't a bad sketch. It was just, I'm going to get this done. And, this is in the midst of like being really afraid of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm about to go under, the knife and all that kind of stuff. It's scary. And then, went through the day, had the surgery, woke up in the bed the next morning or next afternoon. I can't remember. That's all fuzzy. And then being in the hospital bed and going, okay, where's my sketchbook? Let's get a sketch done and get that done. And those were like the hardest days ever. And after that, on the days where I'm like today, where, yeah, I don't feel very well, I don't feel good. But man, it's not those days. So this is a lot easier. Definitely a lot easier. So it gives you this kind of perspective on these hard days where we don't feel like it, where things are happening. You get more perspective and more understanding of yourself, of what you can do, this empowerment that comes through it. And you're like, I didn't know that this was in me. I didn't know that I could actually do that. I thought it was impossible. Who does this? I do. I do this. And then you celebrate those days. Yeah, it was a bad day, but you know what? I got to the thing, that my artwork that was super important to me. And I got it done. I got it done with all that, with the empathy. There's a tendency for many of us to say, in spite of, right? I feel that that's a bit negative. It's kind of like that side of us is a bad side, the days when we don't feel well. How dare you not feel well, right? No, embrace that part of life. That's us. That's us as, these humans, these crazy humans on this planet. Common humanity, we're all going to feel this, and embrace it, not in spite of, but with empathy for yourself that's not feeling so well. And then getting to it, pushing past that. And yes, it does take discipline. Discipline is a component of this. And the more you do it, the more you're going to do it, the more it's easy for you to do it, or easier to get to things. So let's go through it again. You think about your energy level, you have some empathy, you get to it, whatever it is, because it could be multiple things that we're getting to, right? It could be art, it could be anything else. You get it to it earlier in the day, because that's when you have the most energy, the most brain power. Okay, earlier in the day. Think about it like that. And then you set a minimum. Be practical with it. What is your minimum that you feel like you can get to every day? You're definitely not going to make a full painting if you set to yourself, I'm going to make a painting every single day for the rest of my life. Good luck. You're not really being practical with that. There's going to be days when, yes, things, life just runs you over like a bus. Those things are going to happen. So, but if you set like this minimum where you're like, you know what, I can do 10 or 15 minutes of, sketching, pencil and a Post-it note. Doesn't have to be this big thing. I mean, the funny thing about that is we look at like this little tiny sketch as this unimportant thing. It's so unimportant. I mean, it's not very meaningful, is it? The sketches that I did on my transplant day, you can't see them. They're right behind the camera that I'm looking at right here. They're both framed in the most expensive, best frame I could ever buy. I think the frame itself cost like $500 with the best glass, the best backing. Those are my most prized sketches, most important pieces of artwork out of all the thousands of pieces of artwork that I've done. And they're a constant reminder of the day that, the celebration of that day when I was able to do things that I didn't think I could get to. And that's another thing, like, we always go, oh my gosh, I didn't do this amazing painting. It doesn't look good. We look at the result of it, and that's what it's all about. That's all we care about, is like if we performed in a visual way. When I think on our worst days and we get something done, those are ones we should celebrate the most, because we push beyond, this idea of, it's a separation between who we can be, who we want to be, and who we are. And it's like we put this flag in the ground and we said, no, I am not going to let what's going on right now dissuade me from this future that I've set for myself. Those are the most important days. And celebrating that is so important, so important. You know what? I didn't do a good sketch, but I got to it today. And, regardless of what was going on, I pushed through that and I got to it. Super important. Thinking about your energy level first, being practical with the time and what you actually do, with empathy of how you're feeling and what's going on, bringing in some empathy for yourself and saying, it's okay. We knew these days are going to happen. You could even say, bring it on. You can have this like challenge mindset where, hey, I knew these days were going to come, and this is the day when the universe is asking me to step up and be my best self. Here's a perfect opportunity for me to show up and show myself what I can do. It's going to be short. It's not going to be this amazing painting. I may just work for 10 or 15 minutes on the painting that I'm working on, just get a couple things done, or not get anything done. Just put a few brushstrokes down and move it forward one step. But we take that step. Take the step. And this is what I'm talking about mindset. There's a tendency for us to, in a very good way, to look at how we're feeling and go, okay, it's fine. You don't have to do it today. It can wait for tomorrow. You'll be okay. The world's not going to end. That's fine. And then the next day, again, you don't feel well. Things are not going well. Mentally, you're stressed. You got a lot of stuff going on at work. Things are not happening. And you're like, okay, today's just not the day. I'm not feeling it. The muse is not here. I'm not getting any inspiration to do anything. And then the next day comes along. Nope, sorry. Not happening. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. And what that turns into, we have to be very careful with this. We have to be very careful with this, because what it turns into, like it did for me, and the reason why, the impetus, the beginning of reason why I started doing daily art every day is because I had a 5-year hiatus where it was like, Yeah, just not feeling like it. I'm gonna go play my video game. Just gonna do work. Um, yeah, I don't have any motivation. I don't know what to paint. No inspiration. The muse hasn't showed up to help me out. So I'm just not going to do it. And then 5 years go by, and I wake up one day and I'm like, holy crap, I'm not an artist. And I felt terrible. I was like, you know what? If I don't do this, if I don't get to this, if I don't make a change in my life at this moment, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to paint today. I don't care what it is. I'm going to relax all of that tension, all of that um, necessity upon ourselves, all of the expectations. I don't have to make a good painting. I don't have a lot of energy or motivation for it. I don't even know where my tools are at. I'm just going to get things together. I'm going to do, a quick painting. And I did that. And then I did it the next day and the next day. And I was like, what if I do this every single day for the rest of my life? Can I do that? And then me being a very practical individual, I'm like, no, there's no way. I mean, I had just flown, or no, I had to fly to Chicago for a business meeting or something like that. I was like, I know I need to get up super early in the morning. I know all this stuff needs to happen. There's no way I can complete a painting. There's no way I can do anything, quote unquote worthwhile, whatever that means. We set all these expectations. And so I'm like, well, what can I do? What can I do today? What can I do for the rest of my life? And I was like, I bet you I can do 30-minute sketch every single day. And it wasn't long before I was tested. That flight that I did, I didn't get to the hotel room until like midnight or something. And I'm like, holy crap, I haven't done a sketch. And it was like several days into this thing that I set for myself, this idea of daily art for the rest of my life. So I sat down, I did a really stupid sketch of the alarm clock next to the bed. It was awful. And I got to it. I'm like, okay, that's all I need to do. Wow, I can do this. And the next thing I did was, you know what? I need to track this. Because if I can track this, if I can put X's on the calendar, if I can take pictures of my artwork every day, and if I can look at how far I've come, and maybe in the future, if I do complete something like this for the rest of my life, and I can show others like where I came from, how I got to where I'm at, then that would be awesome. So I started a website, chrisbevan.com, and I started logging my daily artwork. And then it became more of a celebration every single day, getting to it. On the worst days, making a terrible sketch. Well, make sure I take a picture so I can put it on my website, this awful sketch. Very quickly, I started not caring about what people think about my artwork. I could care less what you think. I'll ask you for opinions, but it's up to me to, take information on that. It was more about the most important thing for me is to actually work on it, to work on my skill, to get to a drawing, to get through all those hundreds or thousands of terrible drawings and paintings, to learn as much as I can so I can get to the better paintings and drawings eventually once I get better at it. So that's the next thing. Track what you do. It could be so simple. We have cell phones. Take a picture, okay? And then make sure you like back it up somewhere, to some kind of cloud drive or whatever, so you have it forever. And being a web developer at the time, I created it so I could track my time and all kinds of other stuff. Because I was big into the 10,000 hour thing then. Like I was wanting to get to 10,000 hours, blah, blah, blah. Still not at 10,000 hours, getting close, but not at 10,000 hours. And that became not only a celebration on the days of doing things where I would look back and track it, but also it became its own motivator. When you get to a point when you're tracking your daily progress, this daily streak, and you get to even 100 days, there's something about those numbers that you're like, holy crap, I'm at 100 days in a row. Like, I am not going to break this streak. Like, it's almost like this train that's behind you and every single day that you put into it adds another heavy car full of motivation onto that train. And the train gets longer and longer and longer every day that you do it. And all of those days are motivation that pushes you forward, that picks you up when you have bad days and you don't feel like doing things. And it says, you know what? We got you because you've been doing this for so long. Look at that number. And you know that you can do it today, even though you don't feel well, even though things aren't going well. You can do it today. And then after 1,000 days, 2,000 days, 4,891 days, I'm close to 5,000 days in a row. It becomes this tremendous motivator for continuing on. You begin to understand a lot more about yourself with this as well. What you can do, what you can't do. Understand how to be empathetic for yourself. And to keep moving forward. Because I tell you what, man, if you let that train stop, it is so hard to get started up. It's just like a real train. When a real train starts out, it's so slow going. Oh my gosh. Pushing a boulder up a hill doesn't even describe it. It's just this difficult thing, just trying to get, motion forward. Even one single step seems like a slog. But once you get that train going, once things are moving forward, you're just chugging along. You have all this weight behind you, all these things that had the potential of dragging you down, but you have that forward motion. And it doesn't have to be fast forward motion. And like I was saying, it doesn't have to be this big thing every day. One step forward every day, one step forward. The journey of 1,000 miles is made up of very small steps. We forget about this whole journey, journey. It's all about the journey, not the destination. I hear that thing. And some of the most cringy sayings are the most important ones. You're like, oh, cringe. Did he just say that? Yes, I did. Well, you could go with, the Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson, journey before destination. Think about the journey before the destination. One step in front of the next. That's the first thing. In order to get where you need to go, wherever that is, you have to make a step. You have to take a step and another step and another step. Then one day you're going to hate life. Things are going awful. And then you take another step. And that's all that day, just a small step. And you're done for that day. Next day, it'll be better, hopefully. And if it's not, you're going to take another small step. I don't feel well. I'm not making good paintings, but at least I'm moving forward. You can think about it in like a physical way too. I like to use we more often. As we work on our art practice every day, consistently, we're keeping all of that information, all of those tracks that we put into our brain, our actual physical brain. I don't know what they're called. These things in our brain that we're constantly creating, connections between neurons and things like this. We keep those connections alive. Yeah, we're not doing a whole bunch. We're not creating an amazing painting today. We're not even going to finish this painting today. We're just making a small step on it, but I'm keeping all of that physical, all of that neuron, all of that, whatever you want to call it. I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about as far as like brain anatomy. But I know one thing, you keep it going inside your head and you'll begin to make more and more connections. You're showing up to make those connections. And even on a lot of really bad days where I was just working, just getting something done where I don't feel like it, I'll have this little epiphany about something. Like something in my brain will click. And then all of a sudden, oh, I got a deeper understanding of what I'm doing. And that little step could be one of the most monumental steps I've ever taken because of that. So how important these small steps can be is tremendous that we really forget about. Like, I always like to talk about how we're not the same person every day or every minute of every day. We become different people throughout the day, depending on what's going on in our lives or what's happening to us. And a lot of people are like, yeah, that's just BS, whatever. You know what you're talking about. I'm the same person I was when I was in grade school or when I was 5 years old. Same person. No, you're not. You're not the same person. I'm not the same person. We're not the same people. A friend of mine, this is related. Friend of mine, Josh, I remember when they had their third child. And it was, I think we had said this, like the moment that he and his wife had their third child, the parent Josh of 2 kids died, and the parent Josh of 3 kids was born. Such a monumental, tremendous change within anybody's lives. I mean, I don't have kids, I have cats, right? But I will say, even with my kitties, they come into my lives and it's like, okay, I'm a completely different person. That has been the most life-changing thing that has ever happened. And, our daily practice can do that. Like you're working on a painting and then all of a sudden you make a few strokes and it's like, oh my gosh, I have this deeper understanding for what's happening here further than I've ever had. And it's just, a couple strokes on the canvas, this little small thing, or a couple strokes in a sketch that you're doing. That epiphany can come at any point in time. The muse has shown up. Lightning had struck your brain because you showed up, and even though you didn't feel like it, something huge happened. And you're a different artist from then on. I mean, you could come at it at a more dire and detrimental way on this, where, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, and it's hard to talk about, but let's say that you lose someone that's close to you in your life, right? I mean, how can you not be utterly changed by an event like that, right? You were one person this one day. Now they're gone. You're a completely different person. So, and I'm saying this, the importance of this is with how important little moments in our lives can be. I'm always thinking, when I talk about this stuff, I'm always thinking about people that are randomly coming into my videos or streams or whatever, and they're like, what is this guy talking about? Just tell me about what you're working on. I just want to know how to put paint to canvas. All this like self development stuff. I don't need to know it. It's meaningless. Who are you to tell me this? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will come into that, and that's fine. No problem. Very cool. But this is the most important stuff that you will ever deal with in your life for things that you want to accomplish. Having to get through the bad days, the unmotivated days. One of the biggest issues that I think artists have, many artists have, and I get this from a lot of artists, is they wait for inspiration. We wait for something inspiring to move us before we even get to work. And I hear a lot of artists that say this. Oh yeah, I wait until I'm motivated or see the right image, and then I paint something. And let me tell you what that results in, because I've seen it over and over and over again. And if you're that artist right now, and maybe I hit a nerve and I piss you off, okay. Hopefully, maybe I piss you off enough for you to prove me wrong on this. And please do. But what I've seen over and over again from artists that wait for inspiration is they end up waiting to be inspired, and months go by, and then they're inspired and they do a painting. Maybe they're so inspired that they spend 8 hours for 3 days in a row, and they make a painting. And that's cool. That's how they work. Whatever. Yeah. If that works for you, do that. Okay. Not trying to change your life here. Actually, no, I am. I'm trying to change your life here. I'm trying to change your life for the better. But what I've noticed from a lot of artists that happens to them is they'll only paint during those inspiring times, and they'll make a painting once every 1 or 2 months. And if I know anything about this artwork, I know, this art game, right? This art thing that we're doing it's complex. It takes not only, mental skill, but physical skill as well to be able to put the paint in the right place and all that stuff and understand how to manipulate a brush and pencil or whatever we're doing. It's complex. It's more complex than like riding a bike, It's not something that we can put on autopilot and just do. And so if we're not constantly using it, we lose it. The 5-year hiatus I had, I didn't come back to doing painting like I did, 5 years previous. No. The paintings I was doing after that amount of time off were terrible. I had lost the majority of my skill to have that much time off. And so when you're waiting for the muse to show up, you're waiting for that inspiration to happen. And you go from, have months in between painting. You lose your skill. You lose anything you've learned within the month of hiatus or however long it is, months or years. And then you maybe build it up a little bit with that painting. But then you have this other hiatus where all of that skill, all that knowledge kind of goes away. You lose it. And then you do a painting and you kind of build up that skill again. So what happens is if you're just kind of like on this flat line, you're not improving, you're not getting worse, because you're just waiting for things to inspire you. And now I say this, I bet you there's probably artists out there that make amazing work like once in a blue moon and they do really well with it. And that's all they want to do. And that's totally fine, But if you're serious about the art thing, painting and stuff like that, I don't think that is sustainable. If it's just a hobby for you, and you're just like, I just like painting just randomly and it's not a big deal if I never get to it, then this conversation is not for you, definitely. But if this is really important to you and you want to get better at it, you can't wait on the muse. You can't wait for that inspiration. You have to train your discipline to find something to do, to work on it, to always have something moving forward, to be able to make that step. I mean, and the part of it is we put this little importance on the smallest things. We say that little sketch is so unimportant. And if I'm going to do anything, I need to spend X amount of hours, like 8 hours doing anything, or else it's going to be meaningless. Yeah, we need to get over that. That little sketch, that one step forward could be tremendous. Don't wait on the muse as well. Before I start to drive and listen to you, thank you for your knowledge and encouragement. Oh, appreciate that, Christian. Thank you. There, I like to actually, I read the book On Writing by Stephen King. Now, regardless if you like Stephen King's books or not, that's not the point. I mean, I don't know how many books he's written, but talk about prolific writer. I think the only time that he didn't produce a whole bunch of books every year or consistently every year is when he was in a hospital because he got hit by a van or something like that. Right. And most of that book was all about what I'm talking to you about here, where it was, he's set a particular goal for himself every single day. He writes 6 pages a day, which is crazy. I suck at writing. Maybe that's easy for him. We all have different levels. For me, 30 minutes of artwork every day. And that can be just a really poopy sketch of, a box that's sitting on my desk, right? That's for me. But it's all about this, these ideas of getting to it, getting to the work, not waiting for the muse. And, he writes in really interesting ways about all this. And it was very motivating to read from a master of production, Stephen King. There are some books of his that I like, but that's not the point. And then as a comparative, and I have to preface this as a comparative because, I don't like denigrating people, right? They have their own lives, which I have no idea about. There could be so much going on. And you don't know anything about anybody until you walk like a mile in their shoes or more, right? But George R.R. Martin, okay. I remember back in the early 2000s when I picked up his first book of his series, The Song of Fire and Ice. And I was like, whoa, this is a dark book and it's really interesting. And I read that and read the next few. And I think I got lucky and he came out with one of the I can't remember, third or fourth book in that series and read that. And I was like, oh, these are great. I can't wait for the next one. And then years went by and I'm like, where's the next book? Why, what's going on? Did he die? Did something happen? Oh my goodness. And I ended up looking on Wiki and I was seeing like, wow, there's like 10 years between each of these books. This is crazy. What's, maybe that's how he works. Okay, fine. I'm sure he'll come out with another one, whatever. And then I don't know how long it's been for the last books, but he hasn't come out with anything. And then there's an interview between George R.R. Martin and Stephen King. You can go on YouTube and look it up. And the very first question that George R.R. Martin asks Stephen King is, how the F do you write so many books? And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I don't think Stephen King had like a really good response for that. I mean, I could have given a whole bunch of tools for George R. R. Martin to use. Here I am trying to tell him how to write a book, right? Or at least get to his practice, his art practice. But the movie or the TV show series came out, and then I don't think we'll ever see the end of that series. I don't think he'll ever write it. It just lost. He lost it. There's another writer, Patrick Rothfuss, that did the Kingkiller Chronicles. I think he's done 3 or 4 books in that. Such a good write. I mean, so good. I mean, I like a lot of fantasy books, so this is subjective. Obviously, everything I talked about is subjective, and I don't think that will be finished either. 10 years between each book. I think maybe some other things are happening with it. I have no idea. It's just not happening. And I wonder, if they had maybe some just practical tools of just doing a little bit a day, if that would help. I have no idea. But then I also look at Brandon Sanderson. I don't know if you like Brandon Sanderson. You can go to his website. And I love this. Like, me and Brandon Sanderson, as far as like production, like getting to it, daily practice and one step at a time. I think we could talk forever about that together. It'd be fantastic conversation. But on his website, he'll like, these are the books that I'm working on, and he'll have a progress bar so you can see not only what step that the book is in, and like where he's at in that step. And almost every day you'll see that little progress bar creep towards the end, of that particular process. And you're like, okay, this guy's working every day. He's not waiting on the muse. Every day he shows up. I don't, maybe he's sick, doesn't feel like it. I'm feeling a little bit better right now. Like today, maybe he doesn't feel like it, but he knows, like, hey, if I just show up and do, a few paragraphs, and then I can go back to bed. I can get something done because it's really important. Not in this aspect of like someone's waiting on it. I got all these people waiting on me to do this thing, because as soon as you try and get motivation from external from yourself, that doesn't last very long. I've tried it for years. It has to come from internal ideas. If it's like, oh, I'm only doing this for other people, it's very finite. It's very fragile doing that. So not that Brandon Sanderson would wake up every day and go, oh, I need to do this because people are waiting on me. You're just come up with crappy work at that point. But getting to it and saying, this is my life's work. This is super important to me for all these reasons that I've written down. And making that important for us, looking internally and saying, this, like I said, 13 plus years ago, if I don't get to this, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. I'm an artist. I need to be an artist. I did 5 years of nothing. Now I need to show up every day and then get practical with it. The only viewers I get on, it's not even viewers on Twitch. The only thing I get on Twitch is people trying to spam. Spam, go away. Goodbye. Goodbye, spam. Thank you. No, thank you. Okay. Review. Not feeling well today. That's why I'm talking about all this. The most important thing that I feel like I can talk to you about, that I think a lot of people don't want to hear, is the importance of the practice and getting to it. For me, it's a daily art practice that I've been doing for 13 plus years. Today is 4,891 days in a row of every single day doing something My minimum is 30 minutes. If you don't feel like it, here are the practical tools. Number one, understand your energy level for that day. Okay. I don't feel well. I'm tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep. And then have some empathy. Say that's totally okay. Whether I caused it, whether I stayed up late and had a lot of fun with friends or whatever, that's totally cool. I can do that. I'm an adult. I can do that. Or, I am sick, got a cold, don't feel well, or mentally something's going on, say, okay, I understand why I don't feel that well, and it's okay. So my energy is lacking. What do I do? I reaffirm the most important thing that I need to do. I've set this as one of the most important things in my life, my daily art. So I try and get to it as soon as I can. In the beginning of the day, when we have the most energy, after we wake up, even if we've only had a little bit of sleep, at least it's something, and that's where we're going to have all of our energy because, this makes sense. It's practical. You can understand this. As we go through our day, we expel that energy and we get more and more tired, right? So doing your most important task as early in the morning as possible. So do it early, plan it early. And I would say even on the days when you're like, you have all your energy, in the morning early is probably the best time to do it. So that's number one. Number two, set a minimum that you feel like you can do every single day for the rest of your life, right? If you want to do the daily art thing like I'm doing, be practical about it. I set 30 minutes a day. That's my minimum. For you, it could be 10, 15, 20, whatever it is that you feel is right for you. And then number three, feel how important that is. Don't denigrate these small steps forward. They could be the biggest steps of your art career or your life with just one small movement forward. See the importance of the little small things. And I talked about the sketches I did when I had my kidney transplant, and those are hanging up with the most expensive frame that I could buy. Though that's my big trophy. Okay, number four, I think we're on. I'm trying to keep all this in my head. Number four, painting's looking pretty good. I'm liking that. Number four is track your progress. Keep it simple. You don't have to be crazy like I did and make a whole website. I mean, I do web development, or I did at the time. So that was really helpful for me. But keep track of it so you can look back on it. So it can be this motivator on the days when you don't feel like it. The bigger streak that you build up can help motivate you to move forward regardless of how you're feeling during that day. It could be as simple as putting red X's on the calendar, taking photos on your cell phone, backing them up to some cloud online, whatever, so that they're always there. So that 20 years down the road, you can look back at it and go, wow, look how terrible I was at that time. And look how much better I am now, right? Cookie Monster. Hi. Hello, I'm very creative and have sufficient knowledge, but I lack a clear direction for my work. I like experimental still on large canvas. Still life? You mean STILE? Ooh, Christian, you live with chronic pain. Yeah, try something every day. I am sorry that you have chronic pain. I'm not trying to compete with your chronic pain because I'm pretty sure that, you will always beat me on this, but I do live with a lot of chronic migraines. So, and I have experienced my fair share of pain as well. And I know, at least from my experience, how hard that is for pain. Oof. Yeah, tons of empathy going out to you there. So it's a really good, the days when I felt like my worst in bed, just doing a simple sketch, just what I can do. Draw your feet in bed, or something like that. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to draw and paint some of the most simple things. Heck, just drawing. Like I remember times when I'm like, you know what, I feel terrible. Or even when I feel well, I'm just gonna draw this little bottle or this little box that I have on my desk. And I'm like, why is this so hard? This is the hardest thing ever. I could spend 6 months drawing boxes, like drawbox.com, which is actually really good for learning perspective. I could spend 6 months doing this and continually learning from these simple little boxes. Yeah. So little small steps, Christian, little small steps. You got this. Empathy for yourself. I have empathy for you. Set that minimum that you know that you can do every day. Keep track of your progress. Understand how important those little movements are for you, those little steps forward, just those little sketches or whatever. And do what you can. And then celebrate. That's the next one. Celebrate what you do. Okay. You accomplished it. Put that red X on the calendar, take a picture of it. No, it's not a great drawing or painting, and that's totally okay. But you feel like ass, you feel terrible, but you got it done anyways. And celebrate that. Because those, like I said, those are some of the most important days, the worst days. And don't worry, Cookie Monster, I'll get to you. I like experimental style on large canvases. Sounds like abstraction, like you're going to do some abstraction. Tell me, Christian, are you representative or representative? Are you a representational artist? Meaning, do you like painting things, representing an object in life, or do you enjoy abstraction? There's no wrong answer. Both of those are good. I love representational, hyperrealism, all the way to Mark Rothko abstraction. What's his name? Pollock. I like Pollock. See those in person, you have a different idea of Pollock. So the whole gambit. Hey, Matthew. Welcome. Matthew, I just wanted to say thank you. I was thinking about your comments yesterday, and I feel like I was a bit more flippant with your comments yesterday on my painting. And I don't think I gave your comments the attention that they really needed. You were definitely helping me out with this painting. And I think I didn't feel that importance that was part of those comments. And maybe I'm afraid that I made you feel like I didn't care about what you were saying, because I do. And I've seen your work. I know your artwork. And you know what you're talking about. So I appreciate you for your comments yesterday. And thank you so much. But your comment right now is, are you familiar with Johnny Erickson? She is a paraplegic. She also does watercolor, but is unable to use her hands at all. She holds her pencils and brushes in her mouth. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, Christian. Matthew, that's amazing. Thank you. My minimums are 30 minutes, and then I smile because I did it. Fantastic. That's great. Sometimes I like kind of pump my fist in the air. Yes, I got to it. And then I collapse back onto the bed and don't feel well. Another story about paraplegic. And this was really interesting. I think if you guys know Jeff Watts. He does the Watts Atelier. Uh, when I was doing that, I think like I subscribed to the Atelier years ago and was having fun with that group and learning a lot. He at one point he was doing a challenge within their platform or something like that. And I forget exactly what the challenge was about, but everybody was like, hey, you do this, here's the challenge, and you show up and you show your work, right? And they were picking the winners. And one of the winners put in a painting that was not like the best painting, but the person also put in an image of them painting, and they had a brush in their mouth because, they couldn't use their arms, right? And then my entire idea of that painting like changed instantly. I was like, oh my God, that is like one of the best paintings I've ever seen. Because this person, like, I felt like, I think right after that, I'm like, I need to get to my artwork. Like, if this person can do a painting that good with, a brush in their mouth, I'm like, are you kidding me? And that person won. It was like one of the best like results on that competition. And Jeff Watts was the same way. He was like, guys, we need to rethink everything we think about our own selves and our artwork. Look at this person. We have working arms and shoulders and hands and everything. And it just takes that crazy dedication. It's so motivating. So yeah, Joni Erickson, fantastic. I'm gonna have to look them up. Joni Erickson, thank you, Matthew. Let's look them up real quick. Let me see. I'll go to the website. I'll do Joni Erickson art. Hopefully. Oh, wow. There's several Erickson. Ericon. Jonni. Nothing's coming up right away. Matthew, if you throw in a link to their work, that would be fantastic. Would love to see their work. Okay, Cookie Monster. My work is mostly abstraction, looks a bit like mandala or boreal art. Like a boror, like the snake eating its own tail. Obororis or something like a borinol. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I apologize. I have never heard of that. I have to look up that. I am currently working on various small studies into more dynamic compositions and color. Fantastic. All right, let me look up a borinol art. I love how infinite this art thing is. I mean, you can't like put it in a box and say, this is the way art should be, right? They've tried it for, millennia, but no. Oh, wait, this is looking up Aboriginal. Yeah, it's wanting to go to Aboriginal art, not Aborinal. Maybe the spelling on that is not correct. Not sure. Oh, it was a typo. I know mandalas. Mandalas are fantastic. They're beautiful. You get lost in a mandala. I've seen like Buddhist monks and things working with like powders for their mandalas, take years or something to do that. Fantastic. But yeah, that's really good. When we're talking about oh crap, what was I talking about? Brain is not working so well today, guys. And that's why I'm talking about all this. When we're talking about getting to the work when we don't feel like it and the practical ways of getting to it. I love that we're sharing all of these artists and people um, that literally have it a lot harder than we do. It's like, wow, I thought I had it bad. I just not feeling well today, but I'm not deep in pain. I can use my hands and arms. Bringing a lot of attention to that. I remember, a few weeks ago, we had a model at Life Drawing. His name is Chevy, that was deaf. And through the whole Life Drawing, we're playing music and stuff. And I was thinking, Chevy cannot hear this. Chevy cannot hear my voice, cannot hear music, not the slightest sound. And I was bringing a lot of attention to things that we take for granted, right? And I think that can help us get to our painting, can get to our work. Hopefully, it can motivate us on the days when we don't feel like it to move forward. Well, at least I have this going for me. If this person can do it, with that little bit, with they only having, these problems or whatever. But we also have to be careful with that, I think, because we are important within our own issues and things, and our issues are important. Even though, yes, the things that I got going on today are not near as bad as a lot of people out there, it's still important to recognize, that I'm not feeling well. And that's important. And it is important to recognize that. And I'm trying to think of better words for this, but there is an importance that we have to bring into this aspect of our lives. And yes, we're not having such a bad time as Joni Erickson as a paraplegic, but I do have empathy for where I'm at right now. And I know what I need to do because I've been here before and I'm going to get to it. Thank you, Joni Erickson and other individuals that have chronic pain, Christian, that help me, bring some perspective to my own life and have the importance of how I'm feeling right now, and that it's important for me to rest or to do my minimum to move forward in some ways. Yeah. I mean, because if we go down this road of where we're constantly comparing, it can get toxic pretty quickly. Like I do like David Goggins. I don't know if you guys have I mean this guy kind of like the go hard, go home kind of people, but super motivating, a little bit more motivating than most. Where he pushes himself so hard and really denigrates himself so much that it becomes, psychologically unstable in a lot of ways. But in some ways, I find it motivating. But I also have to come at that with like a healthy dose of I need to have more empathy and understanding. I'm not him. I cannot do what he does. I respect the fact that he has such a drive and such discipline. And I can think of that maybe in a way that is closer to my own sensibilities. How can I look at that discipline through the lens of my life? Yeah. Do you think that if I use a lot of symmetry in my art, it can be great, or do you think it will become boring? Okay, that's actually a really good question. I'm doing, or I wrote and I created some videos all about composition, and um, symmetry was part of it. Symmetry, asymmetry, and off balance kind of are all in the same boat, right? Symmetry is everything is very balanced. You're thinking straight lines. You're thinking horizon line, right? You're thinking if you divide your canvas in half, you have the same kind of weight on one side that you have on the other, maybe even the same object on one side. With mandalas, circular symmetry throughout, patterns, right? At least within, we're talking about placement of objects more than like symmetry or balance within coloration, because that's another thing that could be talked about within symmetry and balance and off balance. But what does symmetry say to you? What it says to me, and I think maybe what it says to most people, is calm, stable, meditative, quiet. When we talk about symmetry, this is the words that you're communicating in those paintings. Whether it's a mandala or whatever, you're talking about calm, you're talking about balance. So when we think about composition in that way, it becomes more of a conversation when you kind of switch this idea of these fundamentals of artwork within all composition, and you say, you know what, I want to say calm to someone, or I want to say exciting to someone. This is how I want to lead you through this painting. And if that voice that you want to impart within that painting is calm and balance, then yeah, use symmetry. Use symmetry for that. I would say don't use symmetry because you've defined yourself as a symmetrical painter. Oh, this is the type of style that I use for every painting. Don't put yourself in a box like that, because it will be a box eventually. Well, I can't break out of it. I said I'm a painter that only uses symmetry, but today I'm angry, and I want to communicate that. And asymmetry is all about dynamic, imbalance, off balance, things are a little bit kind of wonky. It's not calm anymore. It's a bit more exciting, right? So I wouldn't think about symmetry as like, if I just use this in all of my art, will it be boring? It could be, but that's a really subjective term that you are opening yourself up for when you show your work. And that's true for all work. So will some people find it boring? Yes. Will some people find it exciting and the most amazing thing they've ever seen? Yes. Both of those will be true at the same time. I would come at it on a lens of, hey, this is how I feel I want to communicate to someone in this painting today. And of course, that could change into a whole series of paintings about symmetry with mandalas. And that would be fantastic. But leave yourself open for those days when you're just like, you know what? I'm not going to do symmetry today. I want something more expressive. I want to figure out asymmetry. I want to talk about something a bit more, quote unquote, exciting, because that's subjective. I call asymmetry exciting. Many other artists could call it boring. It's a very subjective thing. Look inward first before you look outward. So important. What do you want to do? How do you want to communicate to the people that are looking at your painting? That should always come first. Not, will this painting sell if I do it? Yeah. You could do that. A lot of artists do that, but for me, if I ran completely on, trying to guess what people are going to buy or whether people's going to think it's boring, the answer to all those questions is yes and no at the same time. So look at yourself first on that. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if it is. Matthew says, okay, I'm back at my desk. I was driving earlier. No problem about my comments from yesterday. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate you. I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but every time, like I have important friends here, right? Um, and people that I love. And then we have conversations and I run it through my brain at the end of the conversation. I'm like, did I say something wrong? Did I screw up there? Or do they think I'm an idiot or a jerk? Funny thing is I don't do that so much on these streams or my videos. Uh, which I guess is good. I don't rethink it too much, but I bet I am not special in all kinds of ways, only in certain ways, right? But I think a lot of people feel that. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about our conversation. And then I'm glad you're here so I could. Yeah. Okay. Cookie Monster says, thanks. It makes a lot of sense. I could be alternating with the concept of asymmetry. That is a great idea. Look inwards first before you look outwards. 100%. Everybody wants to find their style. And the first thing they do is go to Pinterest or ArtStation or Google, look up all these images. That is the one way to destroy who you are as an artist and be so referential to everything out there that it'll be so hard for you to find your quote unquote style, who you are as an artist. To find your authenticity, your style, it comes from within. What the hell does that mean, Chris? How can I be practical about that? How do I look within? That's easy. What do you like to do? What do you not like to do? And if you're not sure, pick a direction. Try abstraction. Try representational. Try painting pet portraits. Try painting landscapes. Try painting figures. And then have an honest opinion about it. Go, I don't like this. I don't like that. And be, yeah, this is me. I tried it. I didn't like it. Don't just say you don't like it without trying it. That annoys me. No, I don't do that. Never done it. Don't want to do it. How do you really know you don't like it? I've done abstraction. I've done abstract works in college, I've done super photorealistic kind of paintings. Look at the very beginning, like 16 years ago, my artwork page, my gallery page. I liked it then, moved away from it. But try different things and have an honest opinion on it. And in a lot of cases, what I'll do, I remember in 23, I was kind of having a bit of a crisis with my work because I felt like all of my work that I was doing was not from me. I was looking outside of myself so much that I was like, man, is this even me? What is me? What does my artwork look like? So I just stopped what I was doing. And I was like, I'm going to start doing these little tiny paintings where I just get very iterative and I can move through landscapes and I can move through figures and little tiny figures and focus on composition. And then I tried landscapes when we were living in Hawaii. I tried pet portraits. I tried all this stuff. And a lot of it was like, oh, this is fun at first. And then I got bored with it pretty quickly. And then I was like, okay, let me go back to the figurative paintings that I was doing. After moving far away from all of it, let me go back to it and see how I feel. And it was like coming back home. Oh, the first portrait painting that I did, Rage, is on my website. It's sold here in Pueblo a few months ago. Um, it was like coming home. It was like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be. Like it was such a visceral feeling by moving away from what I thought I wanted to do for a while and doing a bunch of other stuff and then coming back to it solidified tremendously. Like, this is me. This is who I am as an artist and who I want to be. And so from then on, it's been like, yeah, I'm doing figurative work. And then every now and then I'll do a landscape, you know, haven't, and yeah, I painted a kitty not too long ago as well. Right. It's like, it isn't like I can't like dip my toe into those things, but I know that that's not where my heart is. And if anybody like challenges that, I tell them that story. Like, hey, I've tried it all. Um, and I've come back to it. But that still leaves a wide door open, right? If you just say, like I say, I love figurative work. Heck, I could go deep into abstraction with with these figures probably and still love it. I'm trying to be pretty abstract with a lot of this, just, representational, but as simplistic as possible. And I haven't talked about what I'm doing on this painting, like the whole stream, but that was the purpose of this stream, was to talk more about how to get to work practically when we're having tough times and tough days. They will come. It's not an if, but a when. When is that going to happen? And then practical ways to get through it. Yeah. Thanks for the star and the emojis, Cookie Monster. Christian, I have such difficulty with proportions and it frustrates me. So I keep going until I figure it out. And my next challenge next year is going to be portraits. Oh, yeah. Proportions, man. It is a constant challenge. A constant challenge, definitely. That's where drawing linearly, just doing drawing all the time, where we can improve, the most, I think, where it becomes such a simple act we can do, like a pencil and then a picture of a figure in front of us. Something off the internet that we just looked at, we liked, or we didn't like. And we're just sitting there trying to get the proportions right. So simple of an act, but our brains are like blowing up with frustration and like, oh my gosh, how do we get this? I don't understand it. And it does get easier. It 100% gets easier. But you also have those days where you're just looking at something and it's so confusing that you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. Like, why am I even doing this art thing? I know I've done a bunch of really good figures, but there's days when I still have, like, it's just not happening. Those days still come along, but keep at it. Yeah, that's the best thing we can do. Getting back to like the continual, consistent practice, even daily art like I do. So important. Super, super, super important. Constantly kind of challenging ourselves as well. There's a tendency for us as people to avoid anything that's difficult. It's built into our brain. When we were Neanderthals and we had to forage for our meals and all that kind of stuff and hunt and everything, we have been we needed to watch all that energy expenditure and only do just enough. It's almost like we're kind of built to be lazy, right? Only enough energy. But then in today's world, when everything can be provided for us, We have to kind of push ourselves. We have to get away from that. But yeah, so when it's hard, when it's too difficult, I like to look at it this way. You're you're like, "Oh my god, this is so hard. It's so much frustration." If we can look at that, like really reframe that idea of difficult into challenge and a place where I know that if we continue working on it is the one place where we'll have the biggest improvement within our skill level. If we look at those challenges and those frustrating times as that, it's almost like more motivating to do it. Like you'll feel the challenge, you'll feel that kind of frustration. And then instead of a negative feeling, it becomes this positive where you're like, oh yeah, I found this challenging thing. Oh my gosh, this is where it's at right now. Here's the next place where I'm going to make this huge leap forward in my skill level. And it's going to be fantastic. I just got to put some work into it, got to put some effort. It may be a month or two, maybe a year. Oh my gosh, hopefully it's not a year, right? But I know where it's, this is telling me what I need to work on. And we can switch that in our head to be like this positive thing, ripe with possibility, ripe with interest. It's like we switch in our head, we turn this little switch on and we say, bring it on. Yes, this is where my true potential is going to lie, in this area. It feels terrible right now, but I've known from the past, if I keep working on it, I'll get better and in bigger ways too. And proportion is always that. Proportion is always that. Oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. It's fantastic. I like, the one thing lately that I did a drawing course recently, all about drawing, and yeah, proportion and all that came up within it. But probably the most important thing for me in that course was that I learned that I love teaching. I loved helping people with this art thing. Not teaching in general. I don't think, if someone said, hey, you had to teach math, I would run the other way as fast as I could, not only for my benefit, but for other people's benefit, because you definitely don't want me teaching math. No, not at all. Right. But I do love teaching this art thing. And I figured that out. And just not even like if people, other teachers say this, it's like, oh, it's so rewarding when you see that they get it and they make something wonderful. I think I enjoy that, of course, definitely. I enjoy those moments, but I also enjoy when like I can see in their face, like I said something and they're like, oh, I understand that differently. Or they tell me, wow, I'd never understood things in that certain way, but I found the language. I navigated that language in a way where now they see it differently and maybe better. I'm not sure, whatever that means, better. Right. But navigating that language, because a lot of the artists, it was difficult because they were coming at this art thing in like a completely different way that I would, like totally left field. And instead of saying, hey, no, you got to do it my way or the highway kind of thing, I was like, okay, let's see if we can navigate the language to not change how they come to this art game, right? And play, but help them, see like a combination of the way I do it and how maybe that can help them with the way that they like to paint. I think there are a lot of artists out there that do that and do it well, and I want to be like that. But then there's also a lot of artists and teachers out there that say, no, this is the way you're supposed to paint. And that's just, I disagree with that. There's no one way to paint. I love the idea that anytime you say a rule in artwork, like, oh, this is a rule of thirds, warm light, cool shadows, like all of these rules. And, oh no, you need to, whatever, you could come up with a million things. And then you can pick out through history all these amazing artists that did exactly opposite of that and made beautiful work. Yeah, there's no rules anymore. And once you know that, once you really feel that, I think when you come at every artist, you can see them for who they are and kind of what they're trying to do, maybe. That back feels a bit weird. I'm not sure about it. I may have another session on this painting, honestly. Should I get over the idea that I want to have an impact on the art world just like some great painters that I love? No. No, not at all. Like, yeah, that's such a deep question, Cookie. I'll tell you what I've been battling with. Something similar to that. And you may have, I think a lot of artists can relate to this. You can't, and you'll hear this. These are quotes, right? Quote, you're never going to make any money as an artist. Starving artist. You need to do something else that makes money and put the artwork on the side. If you do your artwork, it needs to look like this so that you can actually sell something. These are all bullshit quotes. Sorry for the language. Complete and utter bullshit. Never listen to them. Now, what we have to understand as artists, especially artists that are in this, whatever day and age, I don't know why I'm saying it that way, but our family, friends, people that love you and that don't know this, and that's usually the people that will push you in that type of direction. And don't worry, this is going to make sense. I'm going to bring it all around to your question exactly. They want to keep you safe. And by definition, in the 21st century, art is not a safe and easy profession that is meant to just rake in the cash, no problem. The things that we create to sell our paintings are luxury items, and many people only see them as that and don't spend money on them. It is a harder pathway in life. So when you say, I want to make an impact on this world like the great painters I love, it's a hard route. And you're saying, you know what? I'm going to take this hard route and I'm going to figure out a way to do this. I'm going to look at past successes, maybe understand a little bit more of how they got to where they are going to get, figure out my way of doing it, and make that definite choice to pick the hard route. I quit my job at the beginning of the year. I was making over $85,000 a year, sitting here at home, working probably 6 hours a day on the computer. All kinds of money, right? Doing great with our finances. But I was not happy. Am I doing well now? I'm barely making any money. But we prepared for it. I saved up a bunch of money. But we're pulling all kinds of money out of that savings account, right? Life is not just about being comfortable all the time. It isn't about making a ton of money. Maybe it's just about making enough, and that's what I'm going for. I'd rather be happy making enough than unhappy making a whole bunch of money. Because if you constantly search for more, you'll never have enough. But if you just go for enough, you'll never need more, right? So yeah, you're taking Cookie, you're taking a harder route in life. But if it's meaningful for you, if your heart is there, if that's where your happiness is, I don't think you have a choice. I don't have a choice. I mean, I do. I did have a choice whether or not I wanted to quit my job or not, making all that money. But I said, I want to be happy. Happiness is more important to me than all that money that I was making at a very cush, easy job. I wasn't happy. I'm much happier now, making no money, hardly any money, right? Working hard to get, to that point where, maybe people can pay me some more money in all these different ways. But I think it's a wonderful question because so many people that have no idea about art will tell you, no, you're never going to make it. But what does that mean? And making it is nebulous, right? If you like, you could be super poor and super happy, just have enough to put a roof over your head and enough um, food for you and your family. Just be super duper happy. And I think that's the most important. And even now, people are listening to me and they're thinking, yeah, that's a pipe dream. It's easy to say, hard to do. Always come up with some kind of excuse for it. And yet, we look at those people that have done it, that have taken on the hard things, and we'll look at like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Every city in America has a street named after him. 36 years old, changed the course of the entire world. Crazy. You know how old, what's the first guy that was on the moon? Not Buzz Aldrin, the other guy. You know what I'm talking about. He was like 34 years old when he stepped on the moon. Isn't that crazy? Crazy. I'm 50. I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to make it. Happiness first. Everything else second. That's where I'm putting things. Math is the enemy to me. Yes, 100%. I help my granddaughters with homework, and when it comes to math, I tell them, you are going to have to ask your dad or grandpa. Same way. Like I have like maybe a second grade math skill. I never learned my times tables. Addition is like difficult. Really hating that back right now. I'm not sure what's happening with that back. I'm still not liking it, Matthew. Still hating that back. Oh my God. Just doesn't feel right. I mean, it looks similar to the image, but it's not feeling right. Anyway, yeah, math. Well, you're welcome for me trying to address my opinion on that. Okay. You do have to find your own way. This art game is it's the hard choice. It's the hard path in life. But I don't have any other choice. Honestly, I would rather, and I told my wife this after I quit my job, and I'm like, I'll give it like this amount of time, and if I'm not making enough money, I'll just get a random job somewhere. But I'm like, I'd rather do landscaping, really hard landscaping work, back-breaking exercise, right? Then go back to doing like web development and running not running a company, but managing a team of people and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. This was great advice. I'm going to quit my job too. let me put some like boundaries around that for you, Cookie. Like, the idea of me moving away from that job was like a 3 to 4 year process where we were constantly saving up money in our savings account. And when I got to X amount, I could actually move away from it. And when we got our budget under control, then it was like, okay, I can do this, But it was a struggle for those years because I didn't like what I was doing. And it was like a movement over, like a slow movement over, that was prepared so my family could live, not comfortably, but tightly in our budget enough. And it's still like I still have like a boundary on that. If I'm not making a bunch of money, not a bunch of money, but enough money by a certain time, I got to do something else, or figure out something else. So there is some I'm a practical person. There's practical stuff around that, right? So which is important. Yeah, no, I just want to see the artwork in my face. Um, there are practical ways you can go about this. If you can find, okay, like if you love artwork and like that's like your passion, you could find a job like I did where I was doing web development and found this job where I could do it online, and I was doing creative stuff. I was doing web design. I would create an HTML and see the visuals of it. It's a different way of creating artwork. The problem was, is I moved up and I became management, and then it was nothing but meetings and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't enjoy it anymore for years. Having like the side income that gives you enough time for your artwork and doesn't like tire you out so much so that when you get home, you're like, I don't feel like doing anything. That's a possibility. The other ways of doing it, well, I just kind of left my brain. I mean, you could paint, like if you love painting landscapes, my friend Michael Orrick, I talk about him a lot. He started out like waiting tables, love painting landscapes. Landscapes are quote unquote easier to sell. That's the thing. They're easier to sell, but you're also in an inundated market with a million other people making landscapes. So your landscapes have to be better or different in some way. So it still kind of comes out to being the same. So if you're doing landscapes, do the thing that you love first, which he was doing. He loves landscapes. And then eventually, he just built up a following of people, and he just sells paintings all the time. He does a lot of commissions. He does a lot of artwork that he doesn't like to do. But he understands that it brings in money, and he does it anyways. It's another way of doing it. A gallery artist too. A lot of gallery artists out there that put up a lot of stuff into co-op galleries and other galleries and sell through that and have some income as a possibility. There's a lot of people that do things online now. The online markets are fantastic. You get pretty good. You can open up a Patreon, or like what I'm trying to do on my website is have an online learning platform where people can pay me monthly for things, that kind of stuff. And that's the reason I'm here. I'm trying to get a lot of that going. So there's more than one way to go about this. It isn't just like I make a painting, I sell a painting. I mean, because that's honestly one-to-one, right? There's prints as well, one-to-many, which is really important for making money, multiple amounts of money off of one thing that you do. But it all has to come down to what you enjoy and how much you like what you're doing. Because if you don't like doing it, if you don't enjoy doing it, like if you're like, I hate landscapes, I hate still life, you're not going to do them well, and you're not going to do them often, and you're going to hate life. But the point of that is there's more than one way to go about this art thing. It isn't just making a painting, selling a painting, making a painting, selling a painting. Okay. There's a million other ways to do it. I love the folds in the fabric. It looks very good. Thank you very much. That's my favorite part. That's the focus of this whole painting, is the folds in the fabric. And that's another reason why the head is unresolved. And I'm thinking about keeping where it's at. I love this little moment down here where there is an arm there, but it just turns into nothing. But the problem is I feel the back is distracting, like it's distracting me from that. So I have to figure out a way to simply talk about this back, especially this area, so that it says back, but it's not distracting. I looked at it in a mirror. No, I haven't. I should do that. Oh, maybe I can flip it on here. Let's see. I have no idea. Art cam. I bet you. Okay. Transform. I love tech stuff. I love dealing with it. Flip horizontal. Boom. Oh, that's cool. Not only am I looking at it digitally, but I'm flipping it digitally. If you watch digital artists, a lot of really good digital artists will flip what they're working on back and forth. I think, as I'm looking at it, like this I don't know. You can't see my cursor. So like this area right here. Oh, everything's flipped, so it feels weird. Oh my gosh. So right there, like this part of the back, um, I think needs to darken up. You know, it needs to turn more into that area, push that edge back even further, darken it up, I think. And I think that would help it. That was a good idea on the mirror thing. I would have never thought to do that on here. Yeah, I think it also, as I'm looking at it like this, it needs a bit more structure. It feels a bit Play-Doh like it doesn't, you know, backs have structure to it. They have the back of the back and then the side, right? Of course, you know, depending on the figure, the transition from the back to the sides can be very sharp or very gradual. But I think I need to push the structure of that back a bit more because right now it's just too soft and Play-Doh like. Yeah. Oh, that would be kind of fun if I just left my painting like this and you know, people just show up in here and they're like, "What the heck am I looking at?" Cool. Cool beans. Okay. How long was that? 2 hours? Holy crap. Usually the stream was a little bit less. Actually, yeah, 2 hours on the stream. And I started this not feeling well. I'm feeling better now. Thank you guys. It was all you guys helping me out. I think, you know, feeling into this right now, where I started this out, I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling a bit nauseous. Um, Knowing that I enjoy teaching and talking about artwork, I think a lot of that energy comes through, and I'm like, okay, this is what I can do. And if you can find that for yourself, what you love to do, or it gives you that energy, yeah, go for it. You know, it takes years to figure that out. Wish it didn't take as long. Thank you so much, guys, for showing up for the stream, checking things out. I'll continue on this painting tomorrow, so it'll be like the third or fourth day on this painting, which is totally cool. I just feel really great that I got that much time in. Like I was just going to do a half an hour, but man, I got to talking, you know, and I could feel the air with my voice constantly. Oh, chrisbevan.com. I'm going to be releasing hopefully the Painter's Path soon because I'm just getting to it. I'm making up a whole bunch of videos right now. Not today, because after this, I'm probably just going to chill out the rest of the day on a Wednesday. Maybe no, you know what? I'll do some minimums on some other things. And then I'll relax for the rest of the day. But thank you guys so much for showing up. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your comments. I appreciate you tremendously. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.